CTV family. Catch us live on your TV screens.
If you love adventure, well, boy, oh boy, do I have a treat for you. First and foremost, welcome back to the biggest hit show in the motherland. We go by the name of Ekse Live. My name is Lama Limun. Joining me via Skype, Ron, who is a sucker for adventure. Uron, let me tell you, started pedaling on the tip of a Table Mountain down to Camps Bay, but no. He went from country to country to country to country, the whole continent, Africa. Not only that, then he goes to Europe and then travels bicycle to other countries as well, racing to the Rugby World Cup in 2015. Ron, welcome to Ekse Live. Thank you for joining us. You are a freak of nature and I love it. Thank you for joining us.
I've never been called a freak of nature, but thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here and really appreciate the opportunity to share some stories.
Yeah, the reason we're chatting today is because of everything in between. That's a documentary that is airing very soon. So excited and I cannot wait to see it. But for a viewer who does not know your story, what is everything in between about and why make a documentary?
Well, in 2019, myself and my friend James were lucky enough to get the opportunity to spend 9 months cycling from London to Tokyo for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. And not only did we have the opportunity to have this great adventure, we were also tasked with taking the match whistle for the opening game of the World Cup. So it was a great honor for us. And more importantly, and most importantly, we were raising money for the official charity of the Rugby World Cup. A program called Child Fund Pass It Back. As I say, we started in London and finished in Tokyo, but this film is about everything that happened in between. So hence the name. And we were so lucky to have not only the opportunity to do the ride, but also to have it documented.
Yeah, you're a former rugby player, so you are used to endurance. Your body is used to being physical and putting strain onto it. But this is something totally different. How was the experience? What did you gain traveling via bicycle? It's unheard of.
Yeah, so as you say, I played a lot of rugby when I was younger. I mean, I was never going to play for the Springboks, but I always obviously loved South African rugby and loved the Springboks. So, always, whenever I could, I would go and watch the Springboks play. So the original idea came about for the 2015 World Cup. As you mentioned in your introduction, I cycled from Cape Town to London. And if you know rugby, I used to play in the front row. So I was one of the fat kids on the field. And so cycling didn't come naturally to me. But as a way of seeing the world, it's the most incredible tool. You get to go at a pace that's fast enough to cover enough distance that you can cycle from country to country to country. But the great thing about a bicycle is that you're exposed to everything. So you smell everything. You get to experience every bit of weather. You get to experience every uphill, every downhill. But most importantly, it's about experiencing the people. So whether it's a smile from a kid on the back of a motorbike, or people waving at you from outside of the car, it really is a wonderful way to experience the world. And although I'm not a cyclist in the traditional sense of the word, it has become a wonderful tool for me for adventure.
The adventures that you take on when I run are not child's play, because looking at the distance, I cannot imagine. Now, what happens in your head when you feel like giving up? What does Ron say to Ron when you feel like, oh, what did I get myself into? What do you tell yourself?
No, it's a very good question. You do, when you're cycling for 6 or 7 or 8 hours a day, every day, you have a lot of time for these conversations with yourself. And as much as James and I became great friends, oftentimes when you're cycling a couple of kilometers apart, so you have a lot of time on your own. But it's probably the hardest part of most days was, I would say, in the morning. You might be camping in the middle of Turkey or Iran or somewhere where it's freezing cold outside, there's rain and there's snow. And you're lying in your warm tent, you think, oh, I've got to get up and spend the next 7 or 8 hours in the rain, put on my wet clothes. But I think one of the fact that we had a very tight schedule, we had to do 600 kilometers a week, every week. We had the whistle for the opening game, so we couldn't be late. So we did have this responsibility and accountability to our friends and family and sponsors and everybody. So it's quite motivating when you've told everybody you're going to do something, that no matter how sort of tired or cold you feel, it is enough of a motivation to get up and get out there.
It must be quite an experience, and I'd love to join you someday. Nje, we paddle somewhere, but let's not go to any other country. We go from Cape Town to Khayelitsha, ne? And then we come back.
I'm in, 100%, and that's the thing. Once you cycle from Cape Town to Khayelitsha, next thing you'll say, hey, Ron, let's go to East London, let's go to Durban. And next thing you've cycled across the country.
I think I'm gonna sign myself up, and I promise you we're doing this together. Going back to the documentary, what can viewers expect from it?
I'm sorry, I missed the question, sorry?
I'm saying let's go back to the documentary. What can the viewers expect from it? What are they gonna take away?
Yeah, so the documentary, I mean, we were very, very lucky. So James and I, we had our 2 GoPros with us, but Fell & Co., which is the Cape Town production company, they sent out Andrew King and Adam Ralston, 2 great friends of mine, who came out about 6 or 7 times on the journey, and they brought their big fancy cameras and sound equipment. So the film is a combination of what James and I filmed on ourselves with our GoPros, day-to-day life, with the sort of the expert, professional filming expertise of Adam and Andrew. So the film is sort of, it was a sort of, I guess, a combined effort from all of us. But the real hard work was done when we got back. I know there was about 280 hours of footage that the guys at Fell & Co. cut down to a 1.5-hour documentary. So people often congratulate James and I on what we achieved, but honestly, I think making the film itself was probably twice as hard as actually sort of writing for the film.
Ron, how long was this journey, and was it a costly experience?
So the journey, it was 230 days that James and I are on the road, so about 8.5 months. And we started in London in the middle of winter. So we had we have Europe in the middle of winter, we had Asia in the middle of summer. And we went through 27 countries and cycled just over 20,000 kilometers. Which is pretty much half the distance around the world. So the equator is about 40,000 km. So we cycled halfway across the world, 27 countries, from Western Europe to Eastern Europe, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, all the way to China and Japan. So enormous amount of diversity. And yeah, as I say, we did 600 kilometers a week. And in terms of, it was probably costly the biggest cost on a thing like this is actually the opportunity cost, So you leave your jobs or your business or whatever it is to make a trip like this happen. But it's not something that I would ever regret. People say, how can you leave your friends? How can you leave your family? How can you give up your job to do something like this? But ultimately, I've never heard anybody that regrets making a decision to do something like this. You can always work more. You can always spend more time with your friends and family. You've got those missed weddings and things that you give up. But this is a lifetime experience that James and I will take to the grave. And, we're lucky enough to have the film to be able to show our grandkids one day.
Talking about lifetime experiences, take us through the World Cup charity. What is it about, and who's standing a chance to benefit from it?
Yeah, so I'm sure in South Africa you would have heard of Laureus. They're a big organization that fund programs that use in sport for development. So they fund whether it's surfing or skateboarding or rugby or football. They fund different projects that use the power of sport to help lift up local communities. And one of the projects they support on a global basis is called Child Fund Pass It Back. They're based in Asia and primarily in Vietnam, Laos, Philippines, East Timor. And James, the guy I rode with, he actually used to work for them. And they were announced as the official charity of the Rugby World Cup. It was the first World Cup ever taking place in Japan. And it was obviously a program that benefited young children and young people in Asia. So there was a very nice tie-in. And we managed to raise about 2.5 million rand for the project. So we're very, very proud of what we managed to achieve from a fundraising point of view, and just grateful to the hundreds and hundreds of people that contributed to our fundraising efforts. And on the journey, as you'll see in the film, everything in between, a big part of our journey was going to go and visit these young people in Laos and Vietnam who were benefiting from the program. And it completely changed my life. And it just reinforced to me how far money can go when it's well spent like that.
Congratulations with everything that you have achieved, and I have no doubt that there's still more that you are going to wake up and do.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for your support, and I hope that you and all your viewers enjoy everything in between. We look forward to the feedback.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'll be the first one, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Ron. We're cycling to Ekse, and if I do not come back, you best believe that he took me to Congo or Ghana or wherever. We'll take a quick ad break. When we return, there's more of Ekse Live right here on channel 263 on your DSTV. Keep it locked, don't go too far. This is the biggest, the baddest, and the most hip and happening show in the motherland.
CTV family.